Hello students, we are going to revise the second lesson of Bliss for class 10, the poem Fable written by Ralph Waldo Emerson. So in this poem, we can see that the poem starts on a note of conflict between two very unlikely contenders, the mountain and the squirrel. And the point of their contention was so unique that it compelled the poet to carve out those beautiful lines about the most interesting and enriching philosophies of life. As the squirrel was confronted by the massive mountain and was ridiculed for its minuscule size, the squirrel, however, bravely rose to the situation and defended its existence valiantly with logic, wisdom, and knowledge. The mountain, who with its own inflated ego didn't deter from denying the squirrel the bare minimum respect and acknowledgement, just because the mountain thought only by the virtue of its sheer size it has reached the zenith of greatness. However, the humble squirrel, with its wisdom, taught the mountain a very important lesson of life, which is relevant for us as well. We are what we are, and we all are meant for different purposes of life. We should focus on that instead of lamenting over others' abilities and possessions. We should cherish, rejoice, and be proud of our own abilities and what we have. The squirrel wisely teaches the mountain, "You are doubtless very big, but all sorts of things and weather must be taken it together to make up a year." The learned squirrel, in short and crisp sentences, teaches the mountain and us alike the secret of a happy life, which is talents differ, all is well and wisely put. If I cannot carry forests on my back, neither can you crack a nut. Now girls, let's discuss some long answer type questions. First, why was there a quarrel between the mountain and the squirrel? The quarrel between the mountain and the squirrel was about the claim of superiority. The mountain taunts the little squirrel because of its minuscule size. The mountain is boastful about his gigantic size. In order to defend its importance, the squirrel reciprocated, and thus the quarrel started. Question number 2. What are the activities that a squirrel can do but a mountain cannot, and vice versa? The squirrel cannot carry forests on its back, but it can break a nut. The mountain, on the other hand, can carry forests on its back but cannot crack a nut. Question number 3. Why did the mountain address the squirrel as little prig? The mountain called the squirrel a little prig because the mountain knew about the knowledge and wisdom of the squirrel. The mountain was also aware of the fact that it can never match the squirrel in those qualities, that is, knowledge, wisdom, and intellect. So, in the desperate attempt to ridicule the squirrel's mastery, the mountain tried sardonically to harp on the squirrel's minuscule size of anatomy and derived satisfaction out of it. Question number 4. What, according to the squirrel, can be said about the mountain doubtlessly? According to the squirrel, the mountain is doubtlessly very big. It can carry forest on its back. It also makes pretty squirrels' tracks. Question number 5. What point does the squirrel make to the mountain? If the bigness of the mountain is a matter of pride, then the squirrel can also be proud of being small. The big mountain cannot do things which the small squirrel can. A squirrel can talk, a squirrel can trot, a squirrel can crack a nut, but a mountain cannot. Question number 6. What are the limitations that a mountain has? The mountain is not as small and spry as the squirrel. It cannot also crack a nut like the squirrel. What is the ultimate moral or message established by the poem Fable? The moral of the poem Fable is that no one on this earth is more or less important than others. Whether big or small, everyone and everything has its place on this earth. Our last question in this category is: bring out the justification of the title of the poem Fable. The poem is titled Fable. A fable is a short story or poem that teaches a lesson. In a fable, living creatures or non-living things are given human attributes or qualities. In this poem, both the mountain and the squirrel can speak and use reasoning like human beings. The poem teaches us that size does not matter. Everyone has a particular purpose and place in this world. Now let's discuss some short answer type question or ACQs. But before that, I would like to read out the questions. Number 1, what is not a disgrace to the squirrel? Number 2, what is it that the squirrel does not deny? Number 3, who puts all well and wisely? Number 4, what did the mountain call the squirrel? Number 5, how does the mountain make fun of the squirrel? Number 6, who makes a track for the squirrel? Now let's discuss the answers. What is not a disgrace to the squirrel? Occupying his place is not a disgrace to the squirrel. What is it that the squirrel doesn't deny? The squirrel does not deny that the mountain makes a pretty squirrel track. Question number 3. Who puts all well and wisely? The Creator, the God Almighty, puts all well and wisely. What did the mountain call the squirrel? The mountain called the squirrel a little prig. How does the mountain make fun of the squirrel? The mountain makes fun of the squirrel by calling him a little prig. Who makes a track for the squirrel? the mountain makes a track for the squirrel. Question number 7. What did the squirrel think about occupying its place? Number 8. How, according to the bun, can a year be made up? Number 9. Name the poem and the poet. Number 10. Who cannot carry forests? Who cannot crack a nut? Number 11. Mention two qualities of the mountain. And number 12. Who had a quarrel with the squirrel? Now, the answer of question number 7. What did the squirrel think about occupying its place? The squirrel thought that it was not a disgrace to occupy his own space. How, according to Bun, can a year be made up? A year can be made up with all sorts of things and weather taken in together. Name the poem and the poet. The name of the poem is Fable and the poet is Ralph Waldo Emerson. Who cannot carry forests? Who cannot crack a nut? The squirrel cannot carry forests. The mountain cannot crack a nut. Mention two qualities of the mountain. The mountain can make a very pretty squirrel track. Besides this, it can carry forests on its back. Who had a quarrel with the squirrel? The mountain had a quarrel with the squirrel. After dealing with the long answer type questions and short answer type question, let me give you some specimen of objective type questions. I hope you will solve these questions at home. Girls, you may pause the video and take down the questions, but for your convenience, I am reading the questions for you. Objective type question. A. Fill in the following chart with information from the poem. Statement and reason. On reason part, you have to make up a year and a sphere. Number 2, on reason part, you have the mountain called the squirrel little prig. Statement number 3, the squirrel does not suffer from inferiority complex. And the last statement is the squirrel is not ashamed of not carrying forest on its back. Now next category of objective type questions are: complete the following sentences with information from the poem. The nickname of the squirrel is. Number 2, but all sorts of things and weather make up. Number 3, the mountain cannot. And number 4, for the squirrel. Objective type questions. Pattern number C. State whether the following statements are true or false. Provide supporting sentences, phrases or words. Number 1. The squirrel is prior than the mountain. Number 2. The mountain and the squirrel seem to be good friends. Number 3. The mountain called the squirrel little bun. And number 4. The squirrel can crack a nut at ease. Objective type question. D. Choose the correct alternative to complete the following sentences. Number 1. Bun has no doubt that the mountain is option A, small, B, big, C, noble and D, kind. Number 2. The story of the poem is based on number A. Narration, number B. Description, option C. Storytelling, and option D. A conversation. Question number 3. Unlike a mountain, a squirrel can crack a option A. Nut, option B. Joke, option C. Stone, and option D. Lock. MCQ number 4. And the former call the latter little prig. Here, former refers to A. Mountain, B. A squirrel, C. Both A and B, D. Neither A nor B. Number 5. All is well and wisely put. Here is an indirect hint at the A. Supreme Creator, B. Mountain, C. Human beings, D. Squirrel. And the last one is the word spry suggests that the squirrel is A. Full of anger, B. Full of sorrow, C. Full of life and energy, and D. Full of happiness. Girls, now we shall revise the rules of transformation of sentences. Since it's a huge chapter and we have already thoroughly dealt it in classes 9 and 10, today I'll revise some most important rules. But to start with, let us just remind you all what transformation of sentences is. Transformation of sentences is to transform or change the form of sentences into another form without changing the meaning. Let's start our discussion with transformation of degree of comparison. The degree of comparison of adjective may be changed without changing the meaning. Here are 2 examples for you. First, sentence number 1, superlative degree. She is the best girl here. And when we are transforming it into a comparative sentence, we will write, she is better than all other girls here. And in positive, no other girl is as good as she. So girls, you can see that without changing the meaning, we have changed the degree of comparison only. Let us take another example. Now the positive degree, I am as strong as a tiger, is transformed into comparative degree, a tiger is not stronger than me. Now let's see how a simple sentence is transformed into a complex sentence, or a complex sentence is transformed into a simple sentence into a compound sentence, or vice versa. Now let's take some examples. Simple sentence, I know her name. And the same sentence, when it will be used as a complex sentence, we will say, I know what her name is. What her name is the clause, subordinate clause, so it's a complex sentence. The next complex sentence is, I am so weak that I cannot walk. The simple sentence would be, after transforming it, I am too weak to walk. The simple sentence, in spite of her wealth, she is unhappy. And when we will transform it into a compound sentence, we will say or write, she is wealthy, but she is unhappy. Likewise, the compound sentence, she has false, yet I love her, the same sentence will be transformed without changing its meaning into a simple sentence. Notwithstanding her faults, I love her. Interchange of parts of speech is our next topic of discussion. Let's see this with the help of some example. Example 1. He did it carefully. Now carefully is adverb and I'm going to use the noun form of this adverb. He did it with care. Likewise, I am proud of you and I'm going to use the noun form of adjective proud. I take pride in you. She replied promptly. Now here I'm going to transform and use the adjective form of the adverb used in the first sentence. She gave a prompt reply. Number 4. She is seemingly tired. Seemingly is adverb and I'm going to use the verb form of this adverb and the converted sentence would be she seems to be tired. The last one is she gave a rude reply and here I'm going to use the noun reply as a verb. She replied rudely. Now girls, interchange of parts of speech is a huge thing and to do this flawlessly you need to have a proper knowledge of parts of speech. You need to enhance your vocabulary. Once you know the words, you will apply them correctly. The last rule to be discussed today is the rules of interchange of kinds of sentences, that is assertive to exclamatory, exclamatory to assertive, interrogative to assertive or vice versa, affirmative to negative or negative to affirmative. Let's take some example. Interrogative sentence. Who wastes time? Assertive. It is foolish to waste time. Exclamatory sentence. What a terrible sight. Assertive sentence. It is a very terrible sight. Affirmative sentence. Only a fool can act thus. And when I'll transform it, our answer would be none but a fool can act thus. The negative sentence. No sooner had they seen their teacher come than they stopped making noise. And this sentence would be transformed into affirmative sentence and the answer would be as soon as they saw their teacher come, they stopped making noise. So girls, these were the main rules of transformation of sentences. Students, as I have already told you, the transformation of sentences is a huge chapter. Likewise, there is no limit of exercises on this chapter. In test papers and grammar books, you will have ample exercises on this. But here, some practice materials are for you. Please do them in your English copy. Do as directed. Number 1. Being idle, he was punished. Use noun form of idle. Only a child would talk like this. Turn it into a negative sentence. Number 3. He humbly accepted her proposal. Transform it into a complex sentence. She loves freedom. Use the adjective form of love. Number 5. Your play is our death. Make complex sentence. Number 6. Gold is the most precious metal. Use positive degree. Number 7. He confessed that he was guilty. Transform it into a simple sentence. The tea is too hot to drink. Remove too and rewrite the sentence. Number 9. She is sure of success. Turn it into a complex sentence. And the last one is I cannot help laughing. Redo using help. So today in our class we have revised the poem Fable written by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and we have also revised some important rules of transformation of sentences. Hope you all have found the class to be useful. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you all.